What's up, everybody? How you doing? Hope you're doing excellent. Today I'm going to be teaching you about something which makes sense because I'm in a classroom, and it is a term that you hear more and more often in the NBA: schedule loss.
Schedule loss.
What is it? Why is it important? So on Saturday, the Boston Celtics traveled to Detroit to play the Pistons. The Celtics were on an 8-game winning streak, the Pistons on a 6-game losing streak, and this happened. A 113-104 loss. Now the game started pretty competitive. The Celtics were playing well. The Pistons seemed to be amped up for the game. And then they just started missing everything in the second half. And most of it came off of the front rim. Marcus Morris, who had been on a tear, went 0 for 6 from 3 by himself. Kyrie Irving wasn't uncharacteristically missing layups. And then on the defensive end, the closeouts were just slow. Guys looked like they weren't sure where they were supposed to be. Honestly, they're a little bit lucky they didn't lose by more. The Pistons had a bunch of wide open threes that they missed. So a lot of fans weren't even that concerned after the game, saying it was just a schedule loss. And it's not just random fans saying this either. Basketball legends like Phil Jackson are using the excuse of schedule loss. So a schedule loss refers to a game when one team has a disproportionate advantage because of fatigue and tiredness caused by the schedule. Maybe they've played a lot of days in a row and the other team is well rested, or they've been traveling a lot, or a combination of the both. Now, a lot of smart people have done research on this lately, namely Baxter Holmes. The science of sleep and rest and how it relates to athletic performance it's becoming more and more evident that you need to be rested to perform at your peak. So ESPN has started predicting games that teams are going to lose just because they're tired. And a lot of you may be saying, isn't it their job to play basketball? And yeah, they get to fly first class and eat the best foods, and they can afford the best beds and everything. Are they just out partying? What do you mean they're fatigued? Well, let's take a look at some examples. So let's zoom in on that December 15th matchup that the Celtics had with the Pistons and look at the games that preceded it. As you can see, the 8 games leading up to that game in Detroit, they either were traveling or playing a game. So they started off in Boston, went on the road, played the Bulls, then came back home to play the Pelicans, went on the road to play the Wizards, back home to play the Hawks. Now, these aren't the hardest games, but it's just the travel miles logged. Then went on the road to play the Pistons. That is 10,800 miles in 8 days. So that's 8 consecutive days of alternating between sleeping in your own bed to packing a bag, going on an airplane, checking into a hotel, getting acquainted there, sleeping on a hotel bed, repacking your bag, going back on a plane, going back home, then doing the whole process over 3 more times. And not to mention, your team doesn't even get to practice because you don't have an off day to relax, reassess what's going on, what you guys can improve on. Keep up that schedule and Kyrie will be looking like a lot sooner than he might think. And odds makers are very aware of this also. So the Celtics were playing on the road, but like I said before, they were coming off 8 straight wins with an average margin of victory of 21 points. The Pistons were on a 6-game slide, and the spread was only 2 points in favor of Boston. But odds makers weigh rest and fatigue factors pretty heavily. Now let's look back at Kyrie Irving. He's a competitor. He probably doesn't let fatigue get in the way of him doing his best. Well, yeah, but also it does have an effect, as it does on most NBA players. If you look throughout his career, when Kyrie has 0 days of rest, as in he plays one night and then back-to-back on the very next night, his field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and true shooting is all at its lowest. Whereas when he has 3 or more days of rest, his shooting spikes. And that's pretty common when you look at NBA players' career splits. So let's go back to ESPN for a second. Last year in 2017-18, they identified 54 games that they called schedule alert games, which is basically just a game where they were predicting a schedule loss. And with 77.8% accuracy, they were able to pick against the spread in 42 out of the 54 games. Now, that is astounding. And what it really says is that odds makers should be taking into account these schedule loss games even more than they're already baking in to their point spreads. And trust me, gamblers know about this. If I were to have bet on each of those 54 games the way that ESPN suggests that I should have, taking into account the schedule loss predictions, I could have bet $343 on each game and made $10,000 on the season. So, is that what the point of this video was, to encourage you to start gambling? No, not really. The point of it was, if your team ever throws up a total dud and you're not sure why and you're really discouraged with that and you're like, this came out of nowhere, I would take a look at the schedule. Are they on a long road trip? Have they been traveling a lot lately? Are they on a back-to-back? There are a lot of factors that go into this, and it is really hard over the course of an 82-game season for an athlete to maintain peak performance. As hard as that is for us to understand, I mean, they're going all out every night, and sometimes it's just hard to do it. So if your all-star ever looks like this on the court, just an all-time NBA moment. Or if your team is ever showing a lack of hustle like this, don't judge that team or that player based off of one or even two games. Like, look at the entire sample of the season. They could just be going through, like in baseball, they call it the dog days of summer. Sometimes in the NBA schedule, you have little ruts where you just need some time off to get back into the swing of things. So that is my explanation of schedule loss. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think that this is a really fascinating topic. As far as the near future, on December 19th, the Cavaliers have a schedule alert game according to ESPN when they go on the road to play the Hornets. And on the very next night, the Rockets have a schedule alert game when they go to play the Heat. So look out for those games. Maybe put some money on them. I don't know. All right, we'll see you next time, and peace.